Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, when a gunman went on a killing spree last week in Atlanta, it sparked national outrage and conversation around the rise of racism against Asian Americans. 6 of the victims were of East Asian descent, and the police are investigating a racist motivation for the murders. Since the COVID crisis began, there has been a massive increase in hate crimes against Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese and other Asian Americans in the US. Siobhan Kennedy is in New York for us tonight. Siobhan.
Well, Christian, from the start of lockdown to last month, there were more than 3,800 anti-Asian American incidences here in the US, up 25% from the year before. As simply put, people looked around for someone to blame for the coronavirus and settled on the Asian community. Koreans, as you mentioned, Thai people, not just Chinese, encouraged, of course, by Donald Trump and his anti-China rhetoric. And nowhere are those numbers more stark than here in New York, where the number of incidences against Asian Americans rose a whopping 588% in the past year alone. No wonder many of the people we spoke to here over the past few days have told us they are now simply too scared to go outside.
We're fighting 2 battles here, the pandemic and also the hate crimes.
It's 6 a.m. and Natty, a student doctor in New York, is on her way to work. She normally takes the shuttle bus, but after being attacked on the street, she's now too scared to go out alone, so takes a taxi instead.
He kicked me and dragged me across the pavements, and I was bleeding, bruised, and crying out for help.
Just repeat again what he called you.
He called me Chinese virus.
She and hundreds like her in the wake of the pandemic have been subject to unprovoked assaults, punching, shoving, spitting, kicking, even being set on fire. All part, they claim, of a huge spike in Asian American hate crimes in the past year. Up more than 100% in America's largest cities, particularly New York.
It's in our war against the Chinese virus.
And with language like that, some say it's no wonder that Asians of all backgrounds, not just Chinese, are being targeted.
The Chinese virus.
And every time Trump would say that, you know, my heart would just sink. It emboldened racists, right? It was permission. The person who holds the highest office in the country is saying this is who the blame goes to. The consequences were inevitable.
And yet, she says, it wasn't until 8 people, 6 of them Asian American women, were gunned down in Atlanta last week that the issue was finally catapulted to front and center stage.
It is our nightmare realized, and I think that's why we're angry. We've been saying something horrific is going to happen.
People are saying Atlanta wasn't necessarily an Asian American hate crime, that it was a crime principally against women.
I'm so angry by that response. He ended up killing the Asian workers. I mean, how much more of a hate crime is that?
Part of the problem is that hate crimes are notoriously difficult to prove, and lack of trust in the police means incidences in the Asian community are typically underreported. The culture to keep your head down and not complain.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And quite frankly, I'm scared I'm going to get beaten up again.
Natty's parents wanted her to keep quiet after she was left battered and bruised by her attacker. A month on, she's still traumatized, but is determined to speak out.
This deep, unspoken pain awoke inside of me, a pain that many within the Asian American communities had to hide in the past. And I think it's really important to share that this is happening to our community.
Even Asian Americans who haven't experienced attacks are scared. In New York's Chinatown, a combination of COVID and fear has the streets half empty.
Right now it's rush hour, and this is usually the time when it's so busy here. People are grabbing food for dinner, people are grabbing groceries to go home to cook. And as you see, we're walking by 5 storefronts that are closed down, and my staff have told us that they are more fearful of getting beat up by a stranger than they are of catching COVID.
Just round the corner, we meet Sherry and her auntie Carol, rushing to buy dinner so they can get home safe.
You know, we're nervous, you don't know when someone is going to hurt you or hurt you, you know. You never know, right? When we go out, sometimes we have to left and right. You see someone is following you, you know. Like after 4, right? We have to leave Chinatown.
So after 4 o'clock?
Yeah. Before,
you know?
Before dark. Before dark. Yeah.
With takeaway in hand, they're off, hurrying through the streets. We're human beings like everyone else, Sherry says. We just want to live a normal life. But in the midst of a pandemic and with race attacks on the rise, life for many Asian Americans feels anything but normal.
Siobhan Kennedy reporting there.